Have you ever wondered why fear still dominates your life, even though you know that God is powerful? It seems almost contradictory, doesn't it? Jesus promised that we could live without fear, yet often we find ourselves paralyzed by uncertainties. Maybe what no one has told you is that overcoming fear isn't just a matter of courage. There are deep teachings that Jesus shared, teachings many have yet to discover, capable of completely transforming how you deal with fear. And here's a surprising detail. These lessons aren't about fighting fear, but about learning to trust in what seems invisible. Curious to know what these teachings are? Keep reading and discover how to apply each one to your life, and start conquering fear today. Jesus always taught that truth has transformative power. Knowing the truth is like opening your eyes to reality and abandoning the illusions that hold us back. Often, people live wrapped in subtle lies, like the fear of not being good enough or the insecurity of not being accepted by others. Truth, when discovered, is liberating, removing these invisible chains. Jesus said, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free," and this is a promise that resonates even today. For example, imagine someone constantly worrying about what others think. The truth is that other people's approval doesn't define who you are. When a person realizes this, they gain an enormous mental freedom to live according to their true self, without hiding behind masks. It's like a curtain being lifted, revealing the untapped potential that was there all along. This is the power of truth in action. Jesus also showed that truth doesn't have to be painful. We often think that facing the truth will be difficult, but the reality is that it brings peace, clarity, and direction. When we are willing to look at ourselves honestly, we realize that what Jesus teaches is the key to living authentically. No wonder he said that the truth sets you free, because with it comes light that dispels the shadows of fear. Moreover, truth protects us from the lies that society tries to impose on us. It teaches us to be resilient in the face of external pressures, knowing that our worth doesn't come from what the world offers but from our connection with God. When the lies fall, we realize that our true security is in something much greater and deeper. We don't need the world's false promises of security. Jesus shows us that by accepting the truth, we not only free ourselves but also become a light for others. When someone lives in the truth, they inspire and motivate those around them to also seek the truth. It's like a chain of transformation that begins with a simple decision, to no longer accept lies. And thus, we move on to the next teaching, about living with confidence in the present. Jesus teaches us to live in the present with confidence, without allowing anxiety about the future to steal our peace. He constantly reminded his disciples that God takes care of everything, and this is a truth that, when internalized, completely transforms our perspective. Anxiety stems from the fear of the unknown, but Jesus reminds us that tomorrow belongs to God. Our mission is to focus on the now, live fully, and trust that He will provide whatever is needed. A practical example is financial concerns. Many spend their lives worried about bills, investments, and the fear of losing everything. Jesus said that we should seek first the kingdom of God, and all other things will be added to us. This doesn't mean neglecting responsibilities, but rather trusting that God is in control, even when circumstances seem uncertain. Confidence in the present eliminates the fear of the future. This trust also teaches us to be attentive to the blessings God is already pouring out. Often, we are so focused on what's coming that we fail to notice the opportunities and gifts the present offers. When Jesus says not to worry about tomorrow, He invites us to live with gratitude and attention to what we have today. Thus, the present becomes more meaningful, and anxiety loses its grip. There is immense relief in understanding that not everything is in our hands. Jesus constantly reminded His followers that God, as a loving Father, knows what we need even before we ask. Living with this trust is like walking lightly, knowing that each step we take is supported by divine care. Worrying about the future is a burden too heavy for us to carry alone. Trusting in the present, therefore, is an act of faith that liberates. When we place our worries and fears in God's hands, we find true peace. And this peace is precisely what allows us to weather life's storms with serenity. Let's now understand how Jesus teaches us to keep our focus on Him, even in the most intense difficulties. Want to dive even deeper into biblical themes like this? Check out our exclusive ebook in the comments. It offers detailed analysis and spiritual reflections that complement this video. Don't miss out. Download your copy right now. When life's storms arise, it's natural to feel fear and insecurity. However, Jesus teaches us that even in the midst of the greatest difficulties, He is by our side, ready to rescue us. The story of Peter walking on water illustrates this perfectly. As long as Peter kept his focus on Jesus, he did the impossible, but when he looked at the storm around him, he began to sink. Fear only has power over us when we take our eyes off Christ. Imagine someone facing a health or financial crisis. When we focus only on the problem, anxiety overwhelms us, and we lose our strength. But when we fix our gaze on Jesus, we find the courage to keep going, even when everything seems to be falling apart. Jesus gives us the assurance that, even when the waves are high, He is in control. No matter how fierce the storm, with Him by our side, we will not be defeated. Keeping our focus on Jesus during difficult times also means not relying solely on our own abilities. Many times, we think we can solve everything on our own, and when things spiral out of control, despair sets in. Jesus reminds us that He is the source of strength and security amidst the chaos. Looking to Him is like finding a safe harbor in a violent storm, where despite the external turmoil, we feel inner peace. This peace doesn't mean that problems will disappear immediately, but with Jesus, we have the assurance that we will overcome them. Focusing on Christ gives us a new perspective on challenges. Instead of drowning in worries, we begin to see solutions and the lessons that come with each difficulty. Jesus doesn't promise a life without storms, but He guarantees that we will never be alone in the midst of them. Therefore, the key is simple. Keep your eyes fixed on Jesus, no matter what happens around you. When we do this, we realize that He is always there, ready to extend His hand. And it is this peace that Jesus offers, a peace that surpasses any circumstance, that leads us to the next lesson. How to find tranquility in the midst of chaos. The peace that Jesus offers us is something that goes beyond human understanding. Even in the middle of chaos, when everything seems to be falling apart, He promises us a tranquility that nothing in the world can take away. This peace is a divine gift that transcends all logic, a peace that sustains us even when circumstances say otherwise. When we trust in Jesus, we experience this deep serenity that doesn't depend on external circumstances, but on our faith. For example, think of someone who unexpectedly loses their job. The world around them may seem to be in ruins, but the one who trusts in Jesus knows that their security doesn't come from the job but from God, who provides for everything. This peace allows the person to remain firm, even when answers aren't immediate. They know that, in time, everything will fall into place because God is in control. This trust is the foundation of a life free from paralyzing fears. Jesus demonstrated this peace on many occasions, like when He calmed the storm while His disciples were panicking. He was calm because He knew nothing would happen without God's control. When we connect with this same peace, we discover that fear no longer has a place. Even when chaos tries to surround us, our mind and heart remain firm, anchored in the promise that Jesus cares for every detail. However, this peace doesn't mean an absence of problems, but rather the ability to face each one with the certainty that we are not alone. It's a trust that gives us emotional, mental, and spiritual stability, even when things go beyond our control. The true peace of Jesus reminds us that no matter what happens around us, our inner being can be in perfect tranquility because He is with us. So, when we face chaotic situations, we must remember Jesus' promise of peace. It is our foundation, our anchor in turbulent times. And this peace is the result of a life of humility and complete trust in God, something Jesus teaches as the next step toward a life without fear. True strength is not found in our ability to control everything, but in our humility before God. Jesus teaches us that those who trust in their own abilities are building their lives on a fragile foundation. When we recognize that we need God in every area of our lives, we find a strength that goes beyond our understanding. Humility is not weakness. It is knowing that our dependence on God is what truly makes us strong. A clear example of this is when we face situations that are out of our control. A person might try to solve all their problems on their own, but anxiety and fear soon begin to rise when they realize they can't control everything. When we humble ourselves before God, trusting that He has a perfect plan, peace and trust take the place of fear. Humility allows us to see that God is working in our lives, even in the small things we often overlook. This total trust in God is an attitude that Jesus demonstrated countless times, especially in critical moments. On His way to Calvary, Jesus completely surrendered to the Father's will, even knowing what was coming. This example teaches us that true trust in God involves handing over all our fears to Him, knowing that He is faithful to take care of every detail. We don't need to be self-sufficient when we have a God who is all-powerful. Humility also means recognizing that we don't have all the answers. Many times, we try to solve problems with our own wisdom, but Jesus teaches us that trusting in God is the safest path. When we pray for guidance, we hand over our limitations to a God who knows all things. This frees us from the burden of trying to be strong all the time and allows us to rest in the certainty that God is in control. Therefore, living with humility and trust in God is the foundation of a life of peace and victory. When we fully surrender to Him, we find the strength to overcome any fear. And so, we understand that Jesus gave us these powerful teachings to help us face any situation with courage and faith. Now that you've learned Jesus' most powerful teachings, the question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Knowing is just the first step. The real power lies in applying these principles in your daily life. Why not start right now? Do you have a fear that's keeping you from living fully? How about taking a moment to hand that fear over to God? Ask yourself, what's holding me back? Is it a lack of trust? A lack of humility? It's time to change. If you want to continue on this journey of transformation, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, you will keep learning more about how to overcome fear and live the life of peace and trust that Jesus promised. Don't stand still. This is the time to act and experience what true faith can do for you.